Agnes was, without a doubt, a woman of substance. Her name rang with quiet strength, and her presence commanded respect without ever raising her voice. She was revered not only for being the elegant and dutiful wife of Pastor Peter, a widely respected man of God in one of the thriving nations of Africa, but also for her own grace, intelligence, and dignity. Congregants often spoke about her poise, her generosity, and her unwavering support for her husband's ministry. To them, she was the model woman, someone every young girl in the church aspired to become. Pastor Peter and Agnes were the embodiment of a power couple in the religious world. Together, they organized crusades, conferences, counseling sessions, and charity programs. Agnes was not the kind of woman who remained in the background while her husband took the spotlight. She was his right hand, his voice when he couldn't be present. She attended meetings, gave powerful motivational talks to women, and prayed fervently for people who lined up to see her. Many even claimed their breakthroughs came more swiftly after prayer from Mama Agnes. But behind her glowing smile and God-fearing facade was a secret so deeply buried, not even her beloved husband had ever sensed it. Agnes carried a silent burden, a struggle that had plagued her from her earliest years. It was a desire, a craving that defied everything she preached and stood for. Agnes found herself attracted not to men, but to women. In the simplest terms, she was a lesbian. This wasn't something she chose. It wasn't something she even wanted. It was a part of her story that began in the shadows of her childhood, when a much older house help initiated her into a world she could neither comprehend nor escape. It had started with soft touches and quiet whispers, which eventually became a regular occurrence whenever her parents were away. She hadn't even known what was happening to her until years later, but by then, the imprint had been made. It had become a part of her, a hidden scar and secret desire. Years passed, and Agnes, now a grown woman, fought back against these feelings with every ounce of her being. She fasted. She prayed. She read scriptures until dawn and sang hymns with a desperate heart. But still, the yearning remained. In a bid to escape, she made what she believed was a wise and final decision. She married a pastor. In her mind, if anything could cast out the demons of her past, it would be the sanctity of marriage to a man of God. Surely the Holy Covenant would erase her urges and purify her completely. And for a while, it seemed to work. Life with Pastor Peter was fulfilling in many ways. He was kind, loving, and devoted to her. He never suspected that her smiles sometimes masked internal battles. Agnes focused on the ministry and filled her days with church work and charity. There were no temptations, or so she thought. Her personal assistant, Martha, was a bright, energetic young woman who had been working closely with Agnes for almost 2 years. The two had built a strong friendship over time. They prayed together, traveled together, and supported one another. Agnes had never looked at her in a lustful way, or at least she convinced herself that she hadn't. Martha was like a little sister, or so she believed. Everything changed one weekend. Agnes had been invited to speak at a women's conference in a different city. She and Martha made the trip together, as usual. But upon arriving at the hotel, they discovered there was only one room available due to a booking error. With no other viable option, they agreed to share the room for the night. After all, they had done it once or twice before with no issue. Once inside the room, Agnes remembered she had left her Bible in the car and excused herself. But when she returned, her world shifted. Martha had just come out of the bathroom, completely naked, steam curling around her like a veil. Agnes froze in place. The sight hit her like a bolt of lightning. The curves, the smooth skin glistening with water, the soft smile on Martha's face, everything ignited something within her that she thought was long dead. She tried to avert her gaze, to look away quickly, but it was too late. Their eyes met. And in that single, electric moment, everything changed. Martha didn't flinch. In fact, she smirked. "Do you like what you see?" she asked boldly. Agnes stammered, trying to deny the undeniable, but her body had already betrayed her. Her heart raced. Her palms were sweaty. Her knees were weak. Surprisingly, Martha was no stranger to this kind of connection. In fact, she had long since accepted her own sexuality and had sensed something unspoken in Agnes from the start. And so, with temptation and opportunity aligned, the unthinkable happened. That night, they crossed the line. The boundaries of professionalism and morality dissolved in their passion. They ended up in bed, doing what Agnes had sworn she would never do again. And it didn't end there. That moment became the catalyst for a secret affair that would soon spiral into a web of deception, passion, and guilt. They began seeing each other more frequently, always under the guise of ministerial duties. Whenever a church meeting or program required travel, they found ways to book private hotel rooms together. What had started as a mistake turned into a habit. They would stay locked in rooms for days, claiming to be fasting and praying. After church services, while others were fellowshipping in the main hall, they would sneak into the bathroom and engage in brief, fevered rendezvous. To the congregation, Agnes and Martha were the epitome of virtue and godly companionship. People often praised them for their closeness and called them spiritual twins. Women wanted to emulate them. Men admired their dedication. No one knew what lay beneath the surface. Then came the day that nearly exposed it all. Agnes and Pastor Peter were at home, enjoying a peaceful evening together when Agnes' phone rang. It was Martha, her voice weak and trembling. "Ma, I'm very sick," she whispered. Agnes immediately grew tense. "We should go and pray for her," Pastor Peter suggested kindly. But Agnes quickly intervened. "No, honey, don't worry. Let me go alone. I'll pray for her." She rushed out of the house with urgency. But prayer was not the only thing on her mind. The moment she arrived, she and Martha embraced passionately, as if their bodies had been craving each other all day. They collapsed into bed, losing themselves in their hidden world. Evening turned into night, and Agnes still hadn't returned home. "Honey, I'll stay with her until morning," she told her husband over the phone. "She's really not doing well." Pastor Peter, ever trusting and supportive, agreed. "All right, dear. God be with you." But the lies continued. A few weeks later, Pastor Peter decided to surprise Agnes on her birthday. He invited Martha to help him plan a small surprise party in their home. Everything was set for the evening. Decorations, candles, even a cake with Agnes' name written in elegant script. Peter wanted to make his wife feel cherished. And who better to help him than the person closest to her? That night, Agnes and Pastor Peter retired to their room after the celebration. But while he drifted into sleep, Agnes slipped out quietly and tiptoed down the hallway to Martha's room. The door creaked open. Martha was waiting, wearing a knowing smile. "I knew you would come," she whispered. Agnes frowned, trying to keep her resolve. "I'm not here for that. I just came to tell you we need to be careful. We can't keep doing this. We need to respect ourselves, especially during this time. Someone could find out." But before she could finish her sentence, their lips met again. Their bodies followed suit. The passion returned with full force, and once again, they lost themselves in the forbidden act. What they didn't know was that Pastor Peter had stirred from his sleep. He reached out in bed and found Agnes gone. Curious and slightly worried, he left the room and walked down the corridor. It was then that he heard faint sounds from Martha's room, muffled laughter, the creak of the bed, whispers. He pushed open the door and shouted in surprise, "Martha!" His voice roared through the room like a thunderclap. Agnes and Martha froze in horror. Agnes collapsed to her knees, trembling. "Peter, please, forgive me," she sobbed. Martha stood frozen, then turned away, her face burning with shame. Peter's voice was cold. You lied. In God's house. I tried to stop it. Agnes wept. Please, don't send me away. But Peter said nothing. He turned and walked out. That night, Agnes was sent packing. She sat at the gate, weeping until morning. No one came. No voice called her back. At dawn, with swollen eyes and a shattered heart, she returned. I came back to ask for forgiveness, she whispered. There was a long, heavy silence. Then Peter finally spoke. If you're truly repentant, we'll begin again. But not without help. He arranged for her to meet with a Christian psychologist to correct the confusion. Agnes agreed. Martha quietly left the city, determined to rebuild her life once more. Pastor Peter forgave his wife, and with the counselor's guidance, Agnes began the slow path to recovery. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters to us. Thank you once again.
Like and subscribe.